If you want to leave a comment on this video, here's how. Follow the link in the description to our blog and leave a comment there. All you have to do is make a fandom account and you're good to go. You can also follow the link to our tweet at TTTEC and reply to that too. We can't wait to hear your thoughts. Personally, I'm more patient than the rest of the team, so you can take your time. Hello everyone, my name is Solmon, and today I'm joined by none other than MultiGreenThunder. Say hello, Multi.
Hello everyone, I'm honored to be here as a guest on his new show, and I hope you guys enjoy the first episode here.
Yes, indeed we do. So, for today's topic, we thought that it's probably the most mysterious aspect of the franchise, right? Not really aspect of the entire franchise, but more related towards one character is...
Who painted Thomas blue?
Yes, indeed. It is quite the mysterious happening. Some people say it was a workman. I personally don't believe in that theory. Do you, Multi?
Highly, highly unlikely. I think, in fact, it was actually a fireman.
That's more likely if you ask me, but anyway, the real theory we're talking about today is who built Henry the Greed Engine? Now, Multi, could you run us through Henry's history real quick?
Okay, so as someone who's definitely by no means an expert on people, places, railways, and the railway series in general, more of a TV series sort of guy. Henry basically came from stolen plans, which I hear. He came from stolen plans, and when they made him, he had a lot of flaws. And because of this, he was a bad steamer, and as you saw in both the books and the show, he kind of sucked at being an engine. Until, he had his kipper accident, and he had a big rebuild. But the thing is, we don't really know who built him.
Exactly. And that, my friends, is a mystery. And so today we'll try to answer it. Now, Multi, do you have any ideas of why anyone would try to build something like Henry?
Right. I would guess if it came from stolen plans, it was probably a prototype of some sort, right?
Quite interesting. So you're saying he might have been a prototype?
Yes, perhaps. If I remember way back, I've speculated this with a fellow TVR community radio person on here, Master Lemons. I think we talked a little about this at one point. It's like, I think it could have either been some sort of prototype, or maybe because they were stolen, maybe they were they were still working out the kinks with the plans or something, like maybe unfinished plans. I don't really know exactly what Henry's original class was.
Oh, Henry doesn't have an original class. He was actually a mixture of an LNER A1, which is what Gordon is, and a C1, which is basically a smaller Gordon. So ultimately, what they tried to make was a medium-sized Gordon.
Yeah, alright. So, because I feel like it would make most sense if the plans were somehow unfinished, or they were something of, maybe it was a finished plan for another engine, they wanted to start maybe base work for a new engine or something like that, because with all the flaws it had, it doesn't make as much sense to me that it would have been a finished good engine, because I feel like there would have been a lot better results there. Not saying a finished result of the engine couldn't have flaws, but I feel like it would have to be unfinished in some way.
Exactly. So my personal belief is, when they were making Henry, instead of making the C1, which was the smaller engine Henry was based on, into a larger design, but not as big as the A1, aka Gordon, they screwed up. So they basically just made a shorter A1, which it's not how you usually design engines. because you usually design engines from the ground up. Of course, you can integrate certain elements, but when you squish an already existing engine, that's just asking for trouble design-wise.
Ooh, good point. I like that.
So, maybe it's because those people had no background in engineering. And something which should be brought up is, Henry didn't come from any specific railway. He came from a third party, right?
Oh, I think I might know where you're going with this. Are you proposing that perhaps, like, Henry came from, a lot more of, not as, a lot more raggedy type of workshop, a little more behind the scenes, doing some illegal activities.
Behind the scenes, alright. Behind the scenes, alright.
Like illegal activities to where they were trying, maybe they had a good plan for a nice finished engine and they just kind of sucked at it.
I mean, yeah, because here's the thing about Gordon's class is, originally when they were built, they were actually too big. No joke, right?
I could see that.
I mean, he isn't called Gordon the Big Engine for nothing. So, it would make sense that certain railways might find a use in an engine with as much power as Gordon, but in a smaller package.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. And they'd have to try to find a way to, like, accommodate the size change, and maybe when they're doing that, they made some major flaws. In this case, the smaller firebox. Like, they try to accommodate that in smaller size, but that causes a major issue to happen.
Exactly. So, plus, the idea of railways buying from third-party workshops isn't anything new. A lot of narrow-gauge railways actually do that, where they commission other workshops to build them engines, right?
Mm-hmm. I'm picturing, like, you ever see, like in the, like, you ever go to, like, the dollar store and they have, like, all the off-brand stuff at the store? I'm picturing this, like, it's like, okay, get me this beautiful engine that looks like Gordon. And then you get, like, an engine, like, it's like, the wheels are all different sizes, and, like, the tender is, like, double the size of the engine or something like that.
Goodness. It's like asking your mum if you can go to McDonald's, but then she says we have food at home. But then the food at home...
Oh, no! Guys, can we get some art of, like, an off-brand engine, please?
Yes, that's something I'm definitely doing once we stop recording. But
that'll be the next Railway series book.
Exactly. So...
Jimmy the off-brand engine.
Jimmy the off... No, okay, so what's the opposite of... Okay, so let's say James is the engine they're knocking off. So yeah, Jimmy the off-brand engine.
You just get Edward.
That's very rude of you to call Edward an off-brand James.
I'm sorry, Edward. Edward, you're awesome. I'm sorry.
Poor Edward. He loses his job as part of the Steam team, and then you just call him an Edward, a James copycat.
That's a sad thing, because Edward's one of my favorite characters. I'm sorry, Edward. But let's try to bring this back to Henry, though.
Alright, so back to Henry. Now, the thing about Henry, which should also be noted, is that the Fat Controller didn't just buy him and, like, completely just abandon trying to fix him. So, not only did Henry just come out of the factory as a crappy design, but so the Fat Controller tried, like, a bunch of times to make him really useful, right? Mm-hmm. And all those failed. It's even said in the episode Cold, you've had lots of new parts and new paint, which, I don't think a new paint is going to do anything to the performance of the engine. But...
Okay, was it, like, special paint out of the store? Super paint?
It's fancy paint. They don't call it green. They call it cyan or some crap like that.
Yeah, they found some sort of loophole, like, on the brand. They'll put on the label, like, this will make your engine feel better. It's just for confidence, but, I mean...
So Topham had just watched an infomercial, right? Billy May!
I'm picturing, like, a salesman running into his office with, like, a big sign and stuff like that. Well, sir, I got a great deal for you and all your engines. That's something you don't think about. Think about all the stupid promotion stuff Sir Topham Hatt has to deal with on a regular basis from coal companies, all trying to sell him products.
Here, sir, this special tender will make your engines 10 times faster. But then Sir Topham Hatt's like, yeah, but I have a bunch of tank engines. No worries,
How do you
we'll
think
make them enter tender engines.
How do you think he found out about Crew in the first place?
I mean, Crew is an interesting idea as well, but that's just a separate, video in and of itself because of how many layers it has, right?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, back to Henry. Now that we know how he could have possibly been built, the second thing we need to know at least is why. Why?
Yeah, I would guess, my theory to that would be, I would think Sir Topham Hatt, in the early stages of the railway, would have been pretty hard for money and such like that. I think he would have to, especially considering the fact that he managed to somehow get Gordon, as good of an engine as he is, I'd have to say there'd have to be some sort of behind-the-scenes stuff going on to where Sir Topham Hatt was really desperate at the time, and he just had to work with, what was available, and he's like, or, maybe he even could have even been gypped.
Oh my god. You won't believe what I just Sir Topham Hatt worked with the Italian mafia.
Da, da, da. It explains everything.
Imagine if he just walks up to Don Corleone and just, Sir, I need an engine. And then Don Corleone just swings around in his chair and he's like, Topham, I was expecting you.
Give it about 50 years, Topham Hatt will look a lot like Don.
Exactly.
He'll be in the same position with all that power. But you see, Topham Hatt just had to get things going. So that would be my theory. Is I think it'd be a really fascinating story to see. Is Topham Hatt at that time period, how he had to deal with some shady activity to get Henry in there.
Exactly, because we rarely see Sir Topham Hatt in a position of weakness when it comes to his stories. He's always the powerful, big controller. So it'd be interesting to see him, strapped for cash. He'd have to, grease some hands here and there. And like I said earlier, personally, I believe Henry was a failed attempt to try and make a smaller A1 so that it could be sold to railways around the country, hell, even around the world.
That would actually make a lot of sense.
Because here's the thing, at the time, Pacifics in Europe were a fairly new concept, right?
Mm-hmm.
Pacifics had been around since before the First World War in America, but to Europe that was just a brand new concept. So maybe his designers were trying to capitalize on the opportunity.
Yeah, perhaps.
So yeah, now something else was thinking about was Henry originally green, or was he painted green when he arrived on Sodor?
I feel like if he came from that could really go either way. If they could have painted him green right when he got there to possibly try to disconnect him from actually, I think he was probably painted green right when he got there in order to kind of paint up the trail, if you will. Cover the tracks. I'm thinking of that scene in SpongeBob where Patrick's using the paintbrush to cover their tracks. If they want to get disconnected from a lot of the origins of how he was built. A new color would have made a lot of sense. And, it'd even be interesting if perhaps you could have seen, them shredding up some files, or some of them got mysteriously misplaced, if you catch my drift.
Yes, mysteriously misplaced inside the oven.
Yes, inside the small firebox.
Oops, honey, I accidentally dropped these very important papers down in the sink. I hope you don't mind.
Oh man, is that a wood chipper nearby? It'd be a real shame if
But something else, Multi, which could be quite interesting to think about is, if Henry wasn't painted green on Sodor but was always green, they just changed his number. Could that mean that Henry's legacy, or the designers of Henry's legacy, kind of lived on through like Percy, Duck, and Oliver?
Wow, that's deep. Maybe so. I mean, it's one of those things where you don't really think of like just a simple choice of a paintwork, the repercussions it had on the future of the timeline.
Yeah. I mean, imagine if Henry was just painted blue like all the other engines at the time there.
Ugh. Imagine if he was still blue now. Ugh. I don't want that. This is timeline I do not want.
This is the worst timeline, the timeline in which Henry was painted blue.
Oh, if we had the worst timeline, it could be a lot worse. We could have, like, I don't know, James and, like, what if, like, everything was, like, we all have the same colors, but they're just in the wrong order. Like, Thomas is green, Percy is blue.
Oh, God.
A lot of the engines are going to be blue, but a handful of them are green. A Duck is red. Oliver's red. No, they don't match. We'll make it so we don't match to make it even worse.
Imagine if they were all painted blue, but each engine a very different shade of blue.
No, this is wrong. That's even worse.
That's a war crime, my friends. Always paint your engines in the same colour.
Thomas the Navy engine.
Thomas the Navy engine.
Oh no. That had a very different meaning.
Those are two very different navies.
There's another episode of Thomas Theories.
Yes.
Did Thomas join the Navy?
He would probably just slide off the ship knowing him.
And he'd somehow make it back on.
Yeah, because of course he can't die. He's the main character.
Hey, not by the beginning of the books. He didn't have that immunity yet.
Exactly. So far what we have is Henry was built by a bunch of... my theory, right? Henry was built by a bunch of crooks to be replicated and sold to other railways around the world and maybe just around Europe, if not just Britain. And your theory so far is Henry was what?
Basically, it's pretty similar here. Basically, I'm thinking Henry came from the stolen plans, but it wasn't like a finalized version. But when they got the plans, there were some inaccuracies because it wasn't a finalized plan. However, I'm really coming around to this idea of it being like a third party and being really off-brand or such. I kind of like that.
So Topham had just found Henry at the dollar store.
Yes, I'll take two.
No, he was going to the dollar store for donuts, and he just, I'll have 2 packs of donuts, an engine, a tender, and just that.
I'm picturing him like at a speedway or something like that. Like this is just his morning routine. He's like, "Yep, get the engine while I'm at it."
He was just doing groceries when he bought Henry. Didn't even think about it.
Yeah, well, that kind of makes things even more eye-opening when you think of the whole Christopher Audrey Henry 1, Henry 2 theory. Like, oh, I'll just go buy a new Henry.
Oh, that's just a theory for a whole other day. Not today, sir.
Oh, man.
Also, something which I believe is quite interesting. So, what do you think? How many wheels do you think Henry had? Because a lot of people say he had he only had like 460. He was only a 460, and some people say he was a 462, like Gordon. What do you believe?
I would say, I don't remember them ever saying anything about like his wheel capability. I feel like a lot of it was more so like on the inside and stuff like that, like trying to make steam and stuff. So I'd say he was probably the same as Gordon. And
if he was to be a true knockoff, because like Gordon's like a big aspect of Gordon. Like I mean, for my theory, it would work better because, like I said, Henry is a dollar store Pacific.
Can we make that the official terminology now?
Yes, Henry, original class, dollar store Pacific. You know what, Multi? I'm going to edit the wiki right now.
Dollar store, Henry the Dollar Store Pacific.
Exactly.
You know, that would have made Mattel a lot more justified to kick him off the Steam team. Well, it's like, what do you expect? He came from the dollar store.
Sad, very sad. I mean, he was rebuilt into a Black 5.
Hey, that's a pretty good looking engine right there.
Yeah, indeed. Something else is a friend of mine a while back actually proposed the idea that maybe Henry was actually a French engine.
A French engine?
Yeah, because apparently a lot of French Pacifics, a lot of French Pacifics just turned out to be absolutely horrid in the early days, and a lot of them were sold for scrap all over Europe. Hell, some of them even ended up in scrap yards in Britain.
Ooh, well, that would be kind of interesting to think, like, maybe that could have to do with some of Henry's origin, maybe how he originally came there. Maybe something was stolen, maybe escape style.
Henry is a French locomotive.
Yo, what if Henry, he came from stolen plans, was built for the French, went to a British scrapyard, was hijacked from a scrapyard, and went to Sodor?
Henry, the most complicated...
You think Oliver's story was crazy? You hadn't seen Henry's.
Wait till you see Henry, the movie.
Henry the movie, coming to theaters in year 20XX.
No, 20... Oh, no, 2033.
2033. Oh, now they're going to hold that to you. When 2033 rolls around, they better be getting Henry the movie. You better deliver.
I'll probably be dead by then. That's like 100 years in the future.
Yeah. At least put like a trailer up for him. That'll never come out.
I'll make a... You know what? Mark my words. I'll make a trailer for it.
Yes.
Yes. So, Multi, could you tell me so far what your theory has ended up being?
Well, I'm thinking, I think basically it would just be equivalent of, basically, when Sir Tom Hat got involved with it, he got plans that were unfinished, and not to mention, you know what, let's build on this a little more here. Let's say, not only were they unfinished plans for a prototype, it went to a third-party company as well, so there were all sorts of problems there. It came out, the engine, and while it was a fine runner and such, it had a lot of mechanical problems, basically the smaller smoke box and such, to where eventually you were just going to need the full build. It was kind of a problem with plants in the start, which pretty much means it has had to go back to the workshop in the end.
Yeah. Also, you know what would be interesting to think?
What's that?
What if Sir Topham Hatt designed Henry and didn't steal any plans, right?
So he was just...
But what if, when they tried to build Henry, right? What if they actually screwed up the measurements? Like, Sir Topham Hatt gave them measurements in inches, and they made them into centimeters.
We're supposed to use the metric system!
Oh, because that happens a lot in constructions, actually, in engineering, where they mess up numbers.
I can understand that. That stuff gets tricky.
Especially if it's like a European team with an American team.
That would actually be really funny that came down to something so trivial.
Yeah, just, wait, 5 inches or 5 centimeters? Who cares?
And then you cut back to, and then it just cuts to the scene of Henry crashing in the flying kipper.
Boom. Now it doesn't matter because there's nothing left of it.
So yeah, I think that's pretty much my theory.
Alright, and my theory, you guys have already heard it. So, sadly, Multi, very sad indeed, we've run out of time. Oh, the indignity.
Time's up, but definitely not. Time's up for this episode, but not for future episodes. There's going to definitely be a lot of episodes for you coming later on.
Absolutely. And maybe you'll get to see Multi again if he survives.
I doubt that. I'll probably explode in that time period.
Yeah, you could get drafted.
Possibly. I mean, who knows what's coming these days?
Who knows? Maybe we'll record in Iraq for all we know.
Maybe we'll record in the British scrapyard when we found an engine for France.
All right, lads. Hopefully you've enjoyed this as much as I did. Thank you so much, Multi. It's been great talking to you.
Oh, it's been great being on here. Thank you.
And I'll see you all next time. Long live the Solmanic Empire!